Hello, Tuba Hero 37 here, wanting to talk a little bit about the Season 29 PTR of Diablo 3. So this coming season, which we don't have a release date on or anything yet, has kind of three big things going for it. It's got a solo mode added, so you can play solo seasonal or solo hardcore, and they have their own separate leaderboards. They don't yet for conquests, not sure if they will add them, but for right now, you can either play seasonal, which could involve grouping, could not, or you can play solo, which will have no 2, 3, or 4 player leaderboards on that. Next part of this seasonal theme is going to be a Paragon Rework of sorts, where they cap it at the moment at 800 Paragon points is the most that you can accrue. After that, you can still get Paragon levels. I have 10,000 or 1,040, but they don't do anything after 800. You just have a pop-up that says you have gained a level, allocate your points, but then there are no points to allocate. Anyway, they also unlocked so that you can put 200 points into any one stat in a category rather than having to put 50 in attack speed, 50 in cooldown, etc., etc. You can put 200 in cooldown. In this category in particular, that is a very, very good option if you have a build that needs a lot of cooldown, because it's basically everything else is a diminishing return, and also it's easier to get cooldown in your Paragon than it is on your gear. So if you have, say, 4 different things that give you 10% cooldown, that will actually give you a little bit less cooldown than just getting one stack of 40%. And generally, you can only get 8% on a slot, and it's easier to get 10% crit chance on some of those same slots. So it just makes a lot of sense to get a lot out of your Paragon. The defensive side is another category that I think benefits greatly from this, because you can ignore the things that make recovery harder. So you can ignore, life regeneration technically makes recovery a lot easier, but I ignore life percent and life regeneration on some builds so that I can actually recover easier by just making my life pool that I do have a lot more resilient. So you can actually get 1,000 all-res from Paragon if you max it out now. But generally, it's better for me to go some armor, some all-res. And I'll just look at my stats here and see, okay, I've got 94.5 million toughness with it in that breakdown. Let's try adding a little bit extra all-res. It was 94.5. Now it's 94 flat. Okay, let's try it the other way around. And now it's 94.3. So in this case, it looks like, according to how the sheet toughness is calculated, an even split approximately is going to be the best. Maybe adding an extra point or two could have actually gotten a better number, but right now that's what the game views as the best. What this doesn't factor in is the fact that I'll have 150% bonus armor from Akarat's Champion. So in fact, if we want to see a more true in-game, while we have all of our buffs up, we can just pop our thing open while we're doing that. And now it's 176.89. Let's say 177. And now if I bump it all to resistance, boom, we got way more toughness, because I'm pretty sure this 50% armor was additive with the 150% bonus armor. So depending on your build, depending on whether you got bonuses temporarily in combat and stuff like that to all res or to armor percent, you might choose to do things differently. But generally, I find about 500 all res and 50% armor for dex or strength classes to be about where it wants to be. In this last category, if you have a Captain Crimson's build, theoretically, you could get a crap load of toughness by putting in 40% resource cost reduction. But I can't really imagine many builds that would do that, because if you're doing some sort of speed content, very often you would want to get a lot of pickup radius, because basically now that we can't grind XP, there's no reason to go into high GRs. You're going to want to be doing speed 90s, maybe even lower than that if you want. But 90 is kind of where the benefits cap out. So going super fast, screen clearing a ton, and having a big pickup radius is a big help. When you're not speed farming, when you're actually pushing, almost every single build is going to dump all of this into area damage, because that is now 200% free area damage. It kind of makes area damage on your gear much less meaningful, but still, like, this is just so much for basically free that I really don't see picking up life per hit from Paragon or resource cost reduction, because, like, this is just absolutely insane, and getting, like, a little over one weapon's worth of life per hit is not nearly as insane. With a lack of infinite Paragon this season, pushing high on squishy builds is going to be a lot more difficult, but not impossible. Because we're able to change the allocation in the defensive category, even something like Juliana's with Captain Crimson, I didn't feel like was nearly as squishy as I was afraid it was going to be. And I was still taking Mythic Rhythm. I could theoretically take Harmony there instead as well, just lose a couple tiers of damage maybe. But yeah, I was able to do 125 earlier with not the greatest gear. I feel like with really good, like what I would actually push with in a season on hardcore, I could probably clear in the low 130s with Juliana's, which is not great compared to last season or the current live season where I've cleared a 150, but actually it's better than I was expecting with the Paragon cap. So yeah, it's not a death sentence for squishy builds. The last main part of the seasonal theme is the Visions of Enmity, which you just go anywhere in adventure mode, which is basically just opening up your map, going to some zone, and start killing things. And anything you kill has a chance to open up a portal, which leads to a very, very small area. I'll put in some footage where it's a very small area with some very dangerous monsters. There are some new affixes. And basically, it's a thing that you can do while leveling, but it's very, very difficult while leveling because they made the enemies so tough. There are some rooms that are entirely elites, some rooms with 3 Rift Guardians, basically, and I will not be doing it at all while leveling on hardcore for that reason. When you have a proper speed build, it is a piece of cake like most T16 content. These things are very rewarding, and they're pretty fun for a short while. I don't think they'll be fun for more than a week. Maybe, you can get some enjoyment out of it for that long. But they are in short bursts and on a good speed build, like really fun, trying to just see how quickly you can spawn a portal. Sometimes it's in 1 second, sometimes it's in 5, whatever, and then getting to the portal as fast as you can. And just like zoom, 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 and trying to spawn the next portal as soon as you can afterwards. And there's so much loot. And at least on the PTR right now, you get anywhere from 20, 40, or 60 of all bounty mats when you're playing on T16 when you open the last chest. So that's amazing. Sometimes you get a room full of goblins, and then you get a ton of odious collectors. The other thing you can get is keystones. Every chest at the end will have keystones. If you got the 20 mats, then you get 1, 2, or 3, depending on basically how many portals you went through. Because the most I ever counted was 15. I'm not sure if I had other runs where I wasn't counting where I got more than 15. But basically, if you have a small amount of portals, like there's only 5 rooms or so, then you'll only get the lower tier of rewards. Most of the time you get the middle tier, and occasionally you'll have so many portals that they give you the maximum rewards. At least maximum as far as I know, being 60 of every single bounty mat, which is crazy, and 3 GR keys. You can also get 1 or 2 GR keystones from the Rift Guardians that you fight in there, depending on which floor you found them on. And Canes affects all the keys in there, like from the chests or the Rift Guardians. So basically, if you run Canes, you'll be getting 25% more keys than otherwise, except not quite, because if a Rift Guardian drops a stack of 2 keys, then it's impossible to get 4 out of that. You can only get an extra key to drop because it's a stack of 2 keys, to my knowledge. So it's not quite 25% more when you're doing the Visions of Enmity. I will also say one time while I was doing them while leveling, I went back to town because I was very low health and just figured, I'll go to town, and was looking for the healer guy, waiting for potion to come off cooldown or whatever. And then I died because there's one of the curses that one of the extra affixes drains your health over time, and apparently it can kill you in town. So watch out for that on hardcore if you decide to level with these visions. Lastly, I want to say yesterday, while I was recording, just running a whole bunch of the visions over and over again, in a 32-minute time span, I got 70 keys, not trying to be super duper efficient. I did start with a bovine. I only got 2 portals out of it, so that was actually less than the previous bovine that I have tried. So far I've tried 2 bovines, and one I got 4 portals, the other one I got 2. So that's a very, very small sample size, but some examples of what you can get. The rest was just picking zones in the same game and not really going for maximum efficiency, just trying to pick another zone, look for a portal, etc., etc. I have no idea how many bounty mats I got, other than it was definitely a lot. Lastly, I want to throw to some footage that I shot yesterday of Orek streams. I ran 120 something keys, just seeing if I could get an Orek stream to spawn. I got 2 of them in that time because there were several changes in the PTR with them. They originally changed some density for Shrouded Moors and Desolate Sands, which were 2 of the worst maps that you could get in a Orek stream. So they are now really good. Not necessarily Desolate Sands from my experience, but Shrouded Moors is really good in an Orek stream now. I feel like the regular desert might have even been buffed a little bit. They also changed Toxic Lurkers, which was, I would say, the worst mod type you could get in an Orek stream. They removed them, replaced them with Vile Swarms. I did play that a bit in the first week of PTR, but then in the second week, they changed it entirely, where it said that they removed the mob type. And then maybe they didn't, based on some of the footage I took. But yeah, we'll get to that right now. So I finally opened an Orek stream. I'm just kind of interested in the newer mob sets, if they're on this, which this one doesn't have, and the 2 maps that got their density changed. So Shrouded Moors and Desolate Sands are now more dense than they used to be. I want to see what that looks like. And then they also added slashers, but I mean, that should just look normal, like slashers on a good map. Okay, so this should be much more dense than it used to be. And that was quite a few transformers, quite a few non-transformers here. Yeah, this looks pretty darn dense for this mob type on this map. I can only imagine what a more dense mob type would look like now on Shrouded Moors. Desolate Sands also got buffed. Let's see if we can find one of those. Okay, so this map I feel like is kind of a awkward spot because, in my opinion, it was kind of tied with Shrouded Moors for being like a map you don't want to see on an Orek stream. Obviously, if you're a good trash clearing build and you see summoners on it, it's pretty amazing. It looks like it's probably, maybe it got buffed density wise as well, because it looks really dense too. Might just be the mob type though, they're always dense. Okay, so this map got buffed as well. It's often super, not a lot of enemies, kind of like what I'm seeing right now. Maybe they're all somewhere else. So, like I just said, that mob type, which I just had on the last map, I have it again, I think, and a lot less density. Now, are there more mobs on this map than the last one? Probably, because it's bigger. But you're going to have a hard time getting a juicy pulls if you don't have like a whirlwind barb situation where you can just pull the whole map together. So, as much as I hate to say it, you might still be skipping this floor, even with the newer, higher density. It looks like it only got buffed a little bit. Depending on the mobs and how they are laid out, you know, you could still make it work. But since you know, like, every floor is supposed to be great, why would you play one if it's not going to be great? So let's see another floor. Yeah, I don't know. This still seems slightly more cultist than I would expect to see on a desert. I almost feel like they forgot to mention it, and it's also buffed. Another Shrouded Moors, and holy density, Batman. Of course, sometimes you'd get good pockets like this, just generally on maps. You know, you'd have a really good pocket of density, and then nothing for a while. But that's another good room. That's another good room. Like, it's kind of holding up. It also appears that this build does not lag the game out anymore. It used to be that you couldn't really push with it because when you pulled any amount of mobs together, it would lag. Obviously, I have area damage in, 220%. And I haven't seen really any lag. And this is on the PTR, which is normally extra laggy. And holy density Batman. This last room was the best one by far. It's got like 4 little packs all together, all crazy. Good density. Okay, let's try and kill him now, see how much we lag with all this stuff, all this lightning chaining. It might take me down first. So yeah, not really lag, if any. It's kind of funny that I was just skipping basically 5 floors and I was able to catch up just with really good trash, but it is only a 127. So yeah, Orek streams are really good next season. Let's see what the last 4 floors are like. Oh, wait, they can end after 6 floors now. Today I learned. I was slow playing this floor just because I wanted to see a pylon and then I was gonna run to through the rest of it, but at least get 1 pylon out of it. Instead I get 0 pylons. Rip. So this is an old map and mob type, so it's nothing special. It should be exactly what you would expect if you had an Orek stream with the graveyard with ghosts. Still pretty nice density, but nothing new. Okay, Shrouded Moors with a Cursed. Should be really freaking dense because a Cursed is normally a dense mod type. And they just buffed density of Shrouded Moors. Ow. And the beginning didn't look very dense at all, but after that, so far it's been pretty consistently thick with enemies. And then spinning out again ahead. But overall, I'd say a really good map now. Anyway. Oh, a conduit. Maybe I will try and clear this one. Just to have a higher tier unlocked if I want to do anything with it. Ah, dang. This guy only got like a third of his health down from the conduit. Probably not going to be worth staying and finishing him off with this being at the end of the map. Still, like 50% on that map. Okay, obviously a great map with great mobs, but nothing new here. It's actually kind of a linear layout, so not super duper great. The thing about this mob type is it always looks like there's not that many enemies because they're like appearing out of trying to ambush you basically, like these guys warping around and then the Lacunis jumping out of nowhere. I'll just do a little pull at the end here and then move on. 1 cycle there is fine. Alright, Desert. I think maybe this got buffed just based on another attempt I had. it feels like it got buffed to the same level that Shrouded Moors got buffed to. This time, I'm not sure if I would say the same thing. Last time, it felt like way more dense than it should be. Again, like I said on the battlefields, it's hard to tell with the Warping Horror mob type. But, yeah, they might have buffed the desert as well. Maybe I'll just do a last room pull again. Okay, Shrouded Moors. I thought they took Toxic Lurkers out. I thought that's what the new patch was. Interesting. So, as I recall, the initial patch notes for this PTR were that they replaced Toxic Lurkers and Orek streams, well, or maybe just in general, with swarms. And then they said, just kidding, we're taking Toxic Lurkers out entirely, swapping them for Summoners or something. And yet, I'm in an Orek stream floor 5 with Toxic Lurkers. So that's interesting. Obviously, it's usually one of the worst mob types you can get in a Shrouded Moor or in an Orek stream. It looks pretty dense actually because of the new Shrouded Moor density. Like this is a lot of giant spiders. But yeah, normally you would not play this if you're a trashy, loving playstyle, which I am right now. But I just kind of, you know, have all these bajillion spiders and kind of want to blow them up. Okay, we're going to have to actually be skipping floors here soon because I'm at 80% already. And I want to see, maybe it'll stop at floor 6 again, but usually these go to floor 10. At least they have in the past. Okay, we got battlefields and Bokens? What? I don't think these guys can even be in Orek streams. What? They did say that they were swapping something for slashers, but this is not what I think of when I think of slashers. I love that they made progress visible the whole rift instead of having to wait for 95% if you're playing on PC. It's been a thing on console for ages, but... Alright, Desolate Sands, this is only the second one of these I've seen since the change. The first one did not seem really dense. This is also Lacuni Slashers, which is newly added into the mix for Orek streams. And it looks like you could definitely get a good pull of them, like, especially since they're so aggressive. Even if they are less dense than you would like for a map this open, you could still make something happen out of it for sure. Like I could probably spawn with this mass I've got following me right now. I could probably make the boss spawn. I'm gonna do this lightning, hopefully not get 9% in one cycle. I doubt I would. I got a few percent real quick though. Oh my gosh. Alright. See if I spawned a pylon. I don't think I would have missed any spawn points where I just ran. Oh, and there's the end. So I guess I can spawn them RG. Yeah, might as well check out the rest of this floor though, since I don't see many Desolate Sands and Orek streams to kind of see the new density. Maybe counting elites would be a better way to do it, unless they only change the crash density, which is more likely actually. I probably would get 4% fastest if I went back to where I already wounded everything. Which was up here. Definitely will be getting a few percent soon.